We're fired up to talk to Bucks guard Pat Connaughton, who joins the show now here on Scal Pals. Pat, you got us? What's going on, man?
Absolutely. Appreciate you guys having me on the show.
PC, what's up, man? Are you over the dunk contest yet, or do you still feel like you got robbed?
I'm over it. I think it was a fun experience. It was a fun experience for me. At the end of the day, I think a show was put on. So even though I thought I deserved to be in the second round, and I wasn't, obviously that second round I thought was a pretty good show for everybody. So at the end of the day, I'm happy I was a part of it.
You ever thought that if you were the boss, the king of the world, and you could make this dunk contest anything you wanted, would you make some changes to it?
I might a little bit. I might try to, have a little more creativity involved as far as, I thought this year's dunk contest could have gone from 4 participants in the first round to 3 in the second round, and then you could have had a finals in the third round. It lets people, especially on dunk contests that had a lot of excitement, it lets people see all the dunks. Because one of the the biggest questions I've gotten since was, what other dunks did you have in store? And I would have been able to show them if I had a few more attempts.
So, Pat, I think, like I've been saying, and even the day after, that I thought that you got robbed, right? Not being able to make it to that second round. The dunk that you had, for those that don't remember, I know we have short memories here, but the dunk that you had where you went over Giannis, tapped it off the backboard, and then dunked it in. You got a 50 on that one, which was an unbelievable dunk. But I feel like the dunk that made Derrick Jones Jr. move to the second round and kept you out of it, your dunk, the Billy Hoyle white man can't jump double clutch over Christian Yelich, that to me was underrated as well. You said you didn't feel robbed at all, but like I do feel like everyone was talking about Aaron Gordon after that, and how the thing ended in Derrick Jones Jr. winning. What did you talk to those guys afterwards? What was the conversation going on after everyone kind of felt a little bit unsatisfied with the end of that thing?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we talked about it. The thing that I said was, Derrick had a lot of great dunks. Like I couldn't look at Derrick winning and say he didn't deserve to win. But I thought Aaron Gordon deserved a trophy one way or the other, in my personal opinion, based off what he did. And I think what was unique about it was people were mad about Aaron Gordon in the second round, and people were mad about me in the first round. So I thought at the end of the day, it is very difficult for Judge to have been teammates with somebody in the past. And nothing against Dwayne, obviously, but like I'm just saying human nature. Even if you're trying to be unbiased, that's like if Giannis was up there for me, if Giannis was up there as a judge, regardless of if he says he's going to be unbiased or not, our relationship, our friendship's going to sway that a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Hey, Pat, so what do you do now that you're in quarantine? Because I know you like jump on top of boxes. Have you started like jumping on top of cars? You jump on top of roofs of houses? Like, what do you do without the great Milwaukee Bucks training facility to keep your hops sharp and ready for when the season does resume?
I do some different stuff. I run up hills, I run up stairs, flights of stairs. I live down in Milwaukee, kind of near the lakefront. So there's like, 100 staircase thing that goes up this big hill that I do. I thought about trying to recreate the Kobe commercial from back in the day where he jumped over the Lamborghini. Bucks weren't too thrilled with that idea, so I'm going to put that on hold for the time being. I thought about trying to do some deadlifts by, attaching 2 cars to each side of the deadlifting and trying to lift them up. Also probably unrealistic. So I'm just trying to find creative ways to stay in shape, keep my hops, jump over the couch in my living room, things like that.
What about like non-basketball related? Like, what are you doing to pass the time? You playing video games? What are we doing?
Me personally, I do some stuff business-wise outside of basketball. So I have a real estate development company that I own and I run. My dad was a general contractor growing up, so I've been around it my whole life. So I'm trying to put some things in place, during this off time to make sure that, that business is still running nicely and running well. We got a few projects going on in Milwaukee, one of which that's still under construction. So I'm actually on the job site almost every day, passing by, make sure things are getting done. And then just trying to continue to grow that business. I got a few guys within the NBA who are investors within the business. So trying trying to make sure that they're at ease with everything that's going on. They're knowing that projects are still moving forward, and then we're gathering a few more of them.
I was in Milwaukee, and we were about to play you guys the day before this whole thing went down. Where were you at, and what were you thinking, and what did you hear from the team when you heard about the quarantine?
I thought it was wild. I was actually at my apartment watching the games that were going on. I was watching the Mavs game, and I was just getting ready for chilling out. I knew we had a big game, obviously, like you said, the next night versus Celtics. We had lost to them earlier in the year. So I had a bunch of family members that were coming out for that weekend, starting like Thursday night and Friday. So I was just kind of going about it like it was a normal day. I think I was making tacos. I had some tacos up here in my apartment that I was grilling up and making. And then it was kind of crazy. When the game started to stop on Wednesday night, I was watching Twitter more than I was watching the television. Everything was just getting broke. I'd never been so enamored by Twitter besides on the night of the NBA draft.
What have you seen some of because there's been some proposals about like what the league can do, without fans or getting the season started over again, whether that's, quarantining basically teams into a certain location. They talked about maybe in Vegas, they would hold like the rest of the season in the playoffs at a convention center, or they would do it maybe at a college campus in the Midwest and basically quarantine all you guys in there and have you finish out the regular season. Is that something that like has anyone reached out to you about that? And what do you think about potentially finishing the season that way?
No one's reached out to me about it. I think obviously we have great minds in the NBA and the league office with the teams, the owners, Adam Silver, obviously that they're more equipped to make those decisions than gathering my advice. But to the same token, I look at it twofold. Obviously we're in a unknown time. No one's ever seen this. So we want to make sure everyone stays safe. We want to make sure that that's the first and foremost thing. The American people are safe. People are staying inside. People are trying to prevent the spread of this thing. To the same token, I look at the NBA as, one of, if not the premier league as far as doing things out of the box, making sure that we're on the cutting edge of doing certain things. And I think it would be pretty cool to try to find a way to finish the regular season. I think it'd be pretty cool to try to find a way to make sure everyone's health and safety is still safe, but if that is quarantining in a specific location where we can still play some games and it's, essential personnel only, we know everyone's, clear of the virus and we're able to kind of do something, I think it would give the NBA and quite frankly, everybody at home something to watch. I think it would really help, give some hope to this time. And I think it would be a really cool thing. I think it would help the NBA from a business standpoint and a viewership standpoint, take off like it had been.
Pat, when you were a kid, you were a Celtic fan, right?
I was. Yep.
Yeah.
So Brian Scalabrine and a Paul Pierce fan.
There we go.
I'll tell you a funny story. Let me tell you Pat in game 2 in the playoffs, first of all, he came up with a big block and one of your guys was sitting right next to one of my best friends and he gave you a high five. And by the way, like that dude, I think people stopped doing business with him in Boston. But the funnier story is, after the game, I'm walking to my car, and I don't know if it was your uncle or your grandfather. And I'm walking back. He's like, "What do you think of Pat Connaughton?" I'm like, "Dude is nice, super athletic." And he's like, "That's my grandson or that's my nephew." I can't remember. And I was like,
"Nephew."
Go ahead.
Nephew. You were right.
Okay, that's my nephew. So I asked him, "So who do you root for?" He's like, "Come on, Scal. I bleed green. I go Celts all the way."
Hey,
you might need to hold his tickets back.
100%. Sometimes I was saying to people last year during the playoffs, especially because it was the playoffs, you find out where the true loyalty lies within family, friendships, all that sort of thing. When you have a Boston sports fan base that you also grew up with, and a lot of them were like, "Hey, we're rooting for you to do well, just the Celtics to win." I was like, no, that's not how it works. You're either on my side or you're on their side. You got to pick one. And just remember that the ticket box, the box office may have accidentally had the wrong name down there if you picked the wrong side.
So what do you do when you're on the bench? Do you look up in the stands and see if they're let's say, boom, Jason Tatum hits a big step back. You look at the stand, and if the dude is cheering, you're like, that's it, off the list.
No, I'm not. I'm a little more focused in the game, but definitely after the game, I look to see what type of attire they had on, because that will tell you a lot. The Buck green and the Celtic green are two different shades of green.
No doubt. What about your boy who gave you the high five? That he must. I mean, I don't know what he was thinking, by the way, but anyway, he gave you the high five. So is he like locked in for life?
Yeah, he's locked in. He's locked in for life. He had the funniest part about that story is obviously it just happened organically. I knew he was sitting somewhere. I didn't exactly know where he was sitting. After the block, I saw him. He got up and went for the high five. I gave it to him. And everybody around him, there were a bunch of Patriots players around him. And I'm obviously a huge Patriots fan. He is too. And they were all giving him a hard time for the remainder of the game. A lot of them wouldn't even speak to him. They were scoffing at him, doing the whole thing. And he was trying to explain himself, he said, for the next 8 minutes of game time about why he did it. We grew up together, et cetera, et cetera. But he got some serious flack for that.
Pat Connaughton, Bucks guard Jordan is here on Scal Pals. I want to ask you this because obviously you grew up as a two-sport athlete. You were a big-time baseball player as well. And, growing up in Mass, you've got the Celtics and the Red Sox. Was your goal always to be in the NBA? Was there ever a point when you were baseball first? Take us through that decision of you. I know when you got to Notre Dame, obviously it became more clear, but take us through that process of you basically picking basketball over baseball.
So I tried to look at it in two different ways. When I was a kid, when I was growing up in the Boston area, my dream was always to be drafted in two professional sports and, someday play two professional sports. I thought, the guys like Danny Ainge and Bo Jackson and all of them that did the two sport thing, I thought it was unprecedented. I didn't think it was, it happened often, obviously. So that was kind of my goal from the jump. People called me crazy. People said there was no chance, et cetera, et cetera. The list goes on and on. But, for me, as I went through high school and I was fortunate to get a scholarship to Notre Dame, I got drafted for baseball out of high school. And there was a lot of pressure on me from different organizations to forego college to try to – back in 2011 when I was coming out of high school, that was before the slotted draft for the MLB. So they could draft you at any place and offer you any amount of money. So there was seven figures being offered to me to forego college and just go to the baseball path. Everyone always assumed that baseball was kind of what I was going to choose because I was better at it at the time. And I just decided, hey, if you guys want me that badly right now, if I go to college and I continue to improve like I should, and I play two sports on one campus, my improvement will be better. Everything's on that one campus. Coach Bray and Coach Aoki, the basketball coach in Notre Dame and the baseball coach in Notre Dame, already had a plan in place on how it was going to work, how it was going to be seamless, how I was going to be able to excel in both. So I decided to go to Notre Dame for it. And then when it became an option, after college, I played a summer of professional baseball. After my junior year, I signed with the Baltimore Orioles. I played a summer of minor league baseball. It was a great experience for me. And they allowed me to go back to play my senior year of basketball. They didn't think I was good enough to be drafted into the NBA, so they didn't have a problem with it. And when I was fortunate to get to the point where I could be drafted into the NBA, I kind of sat down and I looked at it, and I tried to look at it in an unbiased, non-emotional sense. If I were to fail at one of the two sports, which could I go back to potentially? And with baseball, the nature of baseball is you go through the minor leagues for 3, 4, 5 years. And then you make it to the bigs if you're fortunate enough, and then you got to make sure that you can cut it in the bigs. Some people can't cut it in the bigs. So by that time, I would be the same age I am right now. I'd be 27 before I was really figuring out if I could make it in baseball. And as Scal knows, the athleticism, the youth, the things that you need in basketball, those don't last forever. And compared to baseball, I don't think they last very long at all. So I kind of looked at it like if I gave basketball a shot first, and if it didn't work out for some reason, which obviously I was going to put my best foot forth and try to make sure that it did work out, I had a better chance of going back to baseball. I had a better chance of transitioning back into being a pitcher, I would have been as athletic, if not more athletic than any of the pitchers anyway, based off going through basketball for 2 or 3 years. And that was kind of how I made my decision, because I loved both sports. But basketball was kind of the sport that I always wanted to make sure I didn't burn that bridge before I gave it an opportunity. I gave it a chance, and I put my best effort forth.
So, Pat, like I heard going into or coming out of your junior year, you had one Division II basketball scholarship, and then you had a great summer. I heard you work with Michael Crotty. He just texted me, by the way, and said, make sure you drop my name on this interview. And you worked with him for a year, and then all of a sudden, like, a lot of doors opened up. Was it because you were balancing your time with baseball and basketball that it took you so long to be a 5-star recruit or whatever you were when you finally went to Notre Dame?
Yeah, I mean, well, first and foremost, I'm disappointed in Coach Crotty for not thinking I would mention his name, that he felt the need to text you to drop it.
He just wanted to make sure. He's running a business, Pat. You know how – what'd you say you are? You're not a businessman. You're a business man.
Man, yes, exactly. You got it, Scal. But, yeah, for me, his program, Middlesex Magic, helped me out a lot. Before that time, I played a lot of basketball, but it was just in the New England area. I never got out on a national scale. And part of that reason was because I played baseball all summer, every summer. With the nature of being a 2-sport athlete, obviously youth coaches, they want you to specialize in one sport. I don't think they always want you to specialize in one sport because they think that's what's best for you. I think they often want you to specialize in one sport because they know that will get you better at that sport and in turn help their team and or program. When I was young and I was growing up, I played basketball starting in the fall, ending in the winter. And I played baseball in the spring and the summer. And that was kind of the way it was. I dropped the sneakers in the spring when it became nice out in New England, which obviously takes a little longer than most places. And I dropped the glove and the bat in the end of the summer when it started to get cold out. And I went to the gym to play basketball in the fall. So I was never out on the national AAU tournaments up until my sophomore year, and I played with the Magic. And to Coach Crotty's credit, he's one of my better friends in the world. He allowed me to do both. Obviously, he knew my aspirations in basketball. He knew my desires. I sat down there before I decided to play with him, and I said to my dad, I want to give basketball a legitimate shot. I want to have a chance to become a Division I player. At that time, like you said, I only had an offer from Bentley University going into my senior year of high school. So when I told him that, we knew Coach Crotty Sr. Well, and he offered to allow me to come down to nationals, and I forewent playing baseball as much that summer, but the Magic and Coach Crotty still let me, pitch when I had to pitch and do some things that I had to do in order to make sure both careers kind of continued to go in the right direction.
Pat Connaughton, Bucks guard, joining us here on Scal Pals. Pat, I want to get into some Buck stuff here with you. Obviously, before the hiatus took place, like you guys were obviously, you had been rolling. I think you lost 3 straight going into that, but still best record in the league. Point differential was through the roof. Net rating was historically one of the better ones in the entire history of teams in the regular season. But there are always still some doubts about this Bucks team come playoff time, whether it had to do with last year against the Raptors or whatever, the style of play that you guys have. Did you guys feel like disrespected a little bit that you weren't like that, despite the fact that you had all these great statistical numbers, you had the best record in the league, that people still were doubting you throughout this whole season?
Yeah, I mean, I think we did a great job of having a healthy balance of both. Being disrespected and having nobody believe in you, you can look at that in one of two ways. You can look at it and you can worry about what other people are thinking, or you can use it as motivation. You can use it as fuel within your locker room and understand that, hey, we're in this together. And quite frankly, being a Milwaukee Buck is playing with a chip on your shoulder. And I think it kind of just helped that chip on the shoulder stay there. It helped make sure that we didn't get complacent and comfortable. Coach Bud has always done a great job of that as well. And, for us, I kind of looked at it as, I was sitting there on the jump before the dunk contest, and, Trace McGrady and Scottie Pippen were talking about that same sort of thing. They weren't sure. They didn't know if they believed in our style of play come playoff time when it becomes more of a half-court game, et cetera, all those sorts of things. And my response to them was, do you really believe in any team that hasn't done it before? Like, does anybody really have a belief that until we've gotten to the finals that we'll get to the finals. Kind of like, obviously, last year, no one even knew that we were going to be in the playoffs, let alone the number 1 seed in the playoffs. And then when we got to the Toronto series, everyone talked about Kawhi. We came out 2-0, and now people started to maybe believe a little bit. But then when it went the wrong direction, they went back to saying, yeah, we knew that it wasn't going to work. And now they're using that this year against us. And I think for us, it's just about overcoming that. It's about understanding, hey, with these guys in the locker room, it's up to us to make sure that by the end of the playoffs, they're believers.
When you watch you guys play, you play at such a different pace. Do you guys ever preach anything but that pace, but the attack, driving kick, move the ball? Or is there like, okay, at times in practice, all right, we're going to work on half-court execution for 5 minutes against like live defense? Or is it always we're going to play our system and no matter what, we're going to stick to that?
No, we definitely work on – we do exactly what you just said. We definitely work on half-court offense against live defense because of execution. I think, we want to keep that pace up. We want to run for 48 minutes. We want to be difficult to defend because, we have – in my biased opinion, the MVP of the league for the second year in a row. And one of his strengths is being an absolute freak. He's a 6'11" guy that can handle the ball, that can run, that can get down the court in 1.9 seconds. Like, he can do some things. So it's our job as his teammates, as a supporting cast, to help make sure that we play to his strengths. But to the same token, in the playoffs, it can slow down a little from time to time. In our preference, we run for 48 minutes. In a playoff game, sometimes at the end of the game, there are half-court situations in which you have to execute. And I think that's one of the things Coach preaches to us most, is about execution, mental focus, things of that nature, where it's like the little details matter when it comes to playoff basketball and it comes to half-court execution near the end of the games. Doing a pick and roll, it works if you make sure you set the screen, hit the guy, roll, because you may not get open, but it may get one of your teammates open. And those little details as far as where we are on the floor, the spacing, as well as how quickly we get into some of our half-court plays, those little things are things that I think we are trying to continue to grow on. Because at the end of the day, last year, none of us had been in that situation before. A very select few of us had ever played in that situation. A select few of us had ever coached in that situation. So I think it was also a learning experience. And now I think, with every experience, you get a little bit better. You get a little bit more comfortable, and we know what we need to do in order to continue to try to improve and take it to that next step.
Hey, let me get this one, Ceruti, real quick. Have you ever been around another human being like Giannis? Top to bottom, workout, on the court, off the court, everything. Compare him to anybody you might know.
I can't. I haven't. The best way that I've been able to put it is kind of twofold. The best compliment I give to anybody, let alone Giannis, is he's even a better human being than he is a basketball player. And I think in today's day and age, with how good of a basketball player he is, that speaks kind of magnitudes to who he is as a person. And part of that is the things that he does that nobody sees. That's the work that he puts in on the side. That's the relationships that he has with his family and his teammates. That's his drive and determination to be the best that he can be, but not just for himself, for his team, for the people around him, and to try to win basketball games. And I think, as an MVP, and in my opinion, a two-time MVP back-to-back, I think the work ethic that he puts in is similar to the work ethic that I would put in. And I don't say that to say that I have as good of a work ethic as Giannis. I'm basically saying that to say, as a guy who's a rotation player, as a guy that was a second-round draft pick who had to work to just maintain a position, a job in the NBA, I was in there I'm in there twice a day. I'm in there doing extra conditioning. I'm in there doing different types of stuff. He's right there. And I think as an MVP, that kind of speaks. He works like a rotation player, and that's what allows him to not just be so great for himself, but be so great for our team and his teammates around him.
Pat, do you obviously I think he's shooting around 30% from three this year. The big thing has been if Giannis ever develops a three, look out, he could be the greatest player in the history of the NBA based on his physical skills and obviously if he has that one aspect of his game, it'd be unstoppable. Do you think he can become a guy who shoots like 37, 36 around there % from three and be like a really dangerous 3-point shooter?
No doubt in my mind. One of the things when I go back late at night, I shoot. We do shooting drills. He's always there. And let me tell you one thing. The guy can shoot. I'm not going to give him all the credit in the world and say he ever beats me in shooting games because we have a nice little competition with that. But he's developing his jump shot. And I think at the end of the day, I kind of look at it like this. Think about something that you've done for your entire life. Think about something that has worked and you've done for 24 years of your life. Your mental mindset has to change to get comfortable with your ability to do something else also well. So I kind of look at it like Giannis has never had to really shoot a jump shot because no one can stop him going to the rim. In practice, in the drills that we do, in the shooting games that me and him do, he can shoot. But in a game, when push comes to shove, he's going to want to do what he's always done, that he's always succeeded at such a high level. It's just a matter of time before he's comfortable enough to come down and understand, if you're laying off me, I'm going to shoot it. I'm not going to think twice, whether it goes in or whether it doesn't go in on that particular jump shot. I know that my ability to shoot is similar to my ability to drive. Now, will it ever be as good as his ability to drive? I'm not sure. He's a 6'11" guy. That's one of the most athletic people I've ever seen that can jump from the free throw line and dunk it in a game. But when he gets comfortable by shooting more and more within the game, that's when I think that mental switch really takes a new turn. And that's when I think the form's there. Everything's there. It's just about getting comfortable and shooting it during games.
That last one from me. Can you beat Kyle Korver in a shooting game?
Look, I'm a competitive guy, so my competitive nature is going to tell you yes. I'm also a realistic guy. I have not yet done it. However, let's look at it this way. He's 37, 38, 39. I'm 27. At some point in time, he's going to be willing to give me all the secrets as to how he's shooting so well. And then I'm going to just try to take all of his money in a shooting game before he's 45 and he's on the decline as far as his shooting form goes. However, in golf, I'm not sure I'll ever get there. He's a damn good golfer.
Nice. I'll get you out on this one too, Pat. I wanted to ask you about Giannis because everyone wants to, speculate about what his future is, the contract situation. Do you guys ever mess around with him with that and be like, hey, why would you leave this great situation we got in Milwaukee? Do you ever mess around with him in the locker room, the players, about his future?
From time to time in different ways. I think, it's funny. It's all about the relationship that you have. I mean, people mess around with me about baseball, about, dude, when you're going to up and leave us for baseball at some point in time. People mess around about all different sorts of things because we're a close-knit team. So in the locker room, of course, things are talked about, but they're never that in depth because you want to make sure that you respect the guy's, privacy in a way. I mean, at the end of the day, what Giannis decides to do is Giannis's decision. And I think he'll make the best decision for himself, his family, and the people closest to him, which is what I think anybody and everybody in that situation should do. And obviously, we hope it's here for a long time. Hell, I hope I'm here for a long time. You never even know about that. So I think, regardless of what happens, I'll be happy for him. I'll be happy for his family. And you're talking about a guy who, I've become a good friend with, and he came from nothing in Greece. He's made himself into something, and he's going to be able to provide for him and his family for a long time. So I don't think, regardless of any decision that comes around, that you can ever fault him.
Yeah, I mean, he seems like to be maybe the most universally liked player in the NBA, which goes to show you how much guys, like him as a dude and how great of a person he is. And I don't know if there's anyone else in sports that has the approval rating that Giannis does, which has to be near 100%. So, Pat, we appreciate the time today, man. Great stuff. We've wanted to get you on for a while. So happy it worked out. Best of luck, obviously, during this time. Best of luck, hopefully, when the season returns. And try to stay busy with some of those business ventures, my man.